All right, awesome. Good evening. I am Dr. Melissa Esmacher, one of your session moderators, and I'd like to welcome you to the 8th Annual Building Bridges Dual Credit Conference. Today's pre-conference workshop is titled The New TSI 2.0. We kindly ask that you keep your mics muted to preserve bandwidth. Please keep in mind this session will be recorded. Feel free to post your questions in the chat box. We will collect them all, and our presenters will address questions at the end of the session. For EPCC faculty development credit, we will post the sign-in sheet in the chat box. You will sign in with your EPCC login credentials. The full attendees list will be downloadable from Teams for anyone that does not have EPCC login credentials. We'll also use the chat to post the session evaluation towards the end of the workshop. I'm pleased to introduce Christina Garza and Armando Gomez. Christina Garza is the campus coordinator of the Valle Verde Testing Center, and Armando Gomez is the assistant director for computer-based testing at El Paso Community College. Their workshop will discuss what the TSI changes are and what the TSI currently consists of. And I will go ahead and turn it over to Armando and Christina.
Thank you. Armando, we can't hear you.
You're still muted, Armando.
Actually, I think you were unmuted, and now you're muted, Mr. Gomez.
How about now?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. We're going to be talking about what the TSA is and what it encompasses as far as the an assessment test. We're going to be talking about different topics, starting with the changes that are between this version and the previous version from the previous year. The test security of the test. We're going to talk about test accommodations. Retest scenarios for students, when the student can actually take a test compared to the old, combining the old test version with the new version, and the learning resources that we have available now for students. Let's start with the changes. There's a lot of changes on this version, and every time there's a change for the TSA2 exam for the assessment, everyone thinks that they just do the change, but actually they take in consideration a lot of things. Like, for example, in order for them to be able to do the change, they have to take in consideration the standards for the Texas College and Career Readiness, and also for the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, that's text, for adult education literacy content standards also, and the national reporting system. Also, on these changes that we did for the previous exam to this one is the integration of the reading and writing test into one exam. Before you had the reading separate as an individual test, now it's integrated into the writing section. So we just have one exam that we refer as the ELR test. The diagnostic for each of the exams for the ELR and for the math are new, and they have different ones, and it's one diagnostic per subject now. The learning resources that we are going to be talking about are very interesting, and please make sure to try them out. They have very interesting topics, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Also, what changed was the address for the website. Instead of the accuplacer.org, that was the old address. Now we refer to it as TSA2 accuplacer.org. Now, for the actual examination, the changes that are more marked, in this case, it will be for the ELR suite. In this case, that's called the classification test. The test itself has changed as follows. For example, right now, the test for it has merged from the reading and the writing into one exam. The test itself has 3 sections, which is the classification test. It has the diagnostic, and then the essay. The last two, the diagnostic and the essay, are administered to the student depending on the score that they get on the classification exam. And we'll go over that in a minute. Now, the diagnostic test is another way for the student to pass the test, and that one is scored between a 2 and a 6. That's the maximum they can get is a 6 on that score, on that particular diagnostic exam, and the 2 is the minimum. Actually, it's 1 through 6, but the 1 and 2 are mixed together into one score. Now, the section for the diagnostic, so you can actually evaluate the student capacity as far as the topic that they're trying to review, are breaking down in three areas: in basic, proficient, and advanced. And I'll show you an example right now in a minute. Okay. The Learning Resources Locator is a code that the system produces at the end when the student takes the examination. And the code has the topics that the student actually fail to answer correctly during the examination, during the diagnostic. So if the student, out of all the topics that the test was presenting to the student, fail 8 topics, the code itself will reflect those 8 topics so the student can review them, and we'll go over how they do that. Now, the classification test is actually focused on 2 sections. For the reading section is literary text analysis and information text analysis and synthesis. For the writing is essay revision and editing, sentence revision, editing, and completion. That's what they actually focus on. Also, you're going to be seeing the essay. The essay is the same as before. Is scores between 1 and 8. Maximum score is an 8 on the right placer, and is the same as before. Now, the diagnostic test has 48 items compared to the 30 items that the classification test has. Okay, so that's so all of the strands for the test for the ELR are analyzed correctly, so they can give you a correct diagnostic. That's why it has so many items. Now, for the math suite, is more simple. It has only 2 exams, which is the classification test and the diagnostic. The classification test will determine if the student has to take the diagnostic only if the score is not met for the college readiness. If they do get below the college readiness, they will have to take the diagnostic. Again, the minimum score for the diagnostic is a 2, and the maximum is a 6. The 2 represents the 1 and 2 levels combined again. Okay. Also, the strands for the diagnostic are also marked as basic, proficient, and advanced. And that way you can actually see how's the necessity of the student. They might be proficient, but not quite ready to be advanced on a particular topic. Or if they are very low on the knowledge on a particular topic, it will be just marked as basic. And I'll show you how that is shown on a score report in a minute. And also, this exam will produce a learning resource locator code that would allow the student to go over to the website and review those topics that he needs to review in order for them to be able to pass the test. Now, the classification test has 20 items, and the items are testing the student in quantitative reasoning, algebraic reasoning, geometric and spatial reasoning, probabilistic and statistical reasoning, sorry for that. And the diagnostic test will have the same, but it will be in more detail, and it has 48 items again, compared to the 20 for the examination. Now, this is a sample of the diagnostic test. Once it produces the information and gives you the score, it will tell you that a particular area is just basic. The student has basic knowledge of that particular area, or is proficient on the area, or is advanced. And that way you can more or less know what's the area the student needs more concentration on in order to be able to pass the exam, be able to comply with the requirement of being college ready. As far as security, we want to be asking Christy to present this area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gomez. For test security, if we can get the next slide. Thank you. The ACTA certification, the first thing to know about it is how many certification versions are there. There's 2. One is for the institutional administrator and site manager, and the other is for the proctor reporter or just the proctor. The first time you take the test, there are 15 questions, and the renewal has 10 to 12 questions depending on your role. If you serve as both roles, will you be required to take 2 certification tests? Yes, and you are required to know the 2 levels of information. How long will I have to complete the certification test? It's not timed, and new users will need to complete the ACTA before the credentials will be fully activated. What that means is you will not be able to see or select any other information such as branching profiles or student test scores until you've actually passed the test, okay? How many times can I take the test? It's unlimited, but you do need to score 100% to pass. How long is a certification good for? It's good for 12 months. An annual renewal is required, and you will get a warning that your credentials are going to expire about 15 days before. How do you take the test? You will be able to take both certification tests through your account, and it is self-proctored and no units are required. ACTA certification, so this is what it would look like. On the left-hand side, the only option you would have would be to take the certification test. Once you've completed that with 100%, then the other items will become available, like selecting which test can be administered, but first you have to pass the certification test before you can do anything else. Test center guidelines, important reminders for virtual and in-person proctoring. Certified proctors must be present at all times during testing. So if you're testing virtually, you also need to randomly rotate through the testing rooms. So it's in person and virtual. You need to do both, okay? Cell phones, cameras, wearables, dictionaries, and any other electronic devices are not permitted. So you need to do a scan of the room, make sure the students don't have any of those items with you. If they're allowed to use a calculator on a specific question, it will appear on the screen. Login credentials cannot be given to the students, so they cannot be written on a whiteboard, and you cannot make copies to distribute to your students with your credentials on it. Unauthorized individuals are not permitted in the testing center or remote testing space. So that means if you're doing virtual proctoring, the student would need to be alone in the room the entire time. So if you see that there's children with them, or you see that there's siblings with them, you would need to tell them to make sure that they go to an area where they are alone. Scratch paper must be provided and destroyed in person, okay? Make sure you do that immediately after the test session is over. And if you're doing it through virtual proctoring, you would need to look at the scratch paper before the student starts, make sure it is blank, and make sure that they destroy it completely before you let them log off from the testing session. All companion items must be kept in a secure area and remain inaccessible to students until the date of testing. Test violation protocol. Using your due diligence as a proctor can prohibit the scenarios from occurring, but if a student is observed using prohibited items such as a cell phone or any other electronic devices during the administration of the test, the proctor should stop the test session from the dashboard. If possible, review the device to ensure neither pictures of the test content were taken nor text messages regarding the test sent and received. Notify the institutional administrator or site manager to confirm the test if the test should be invalidated. Invalidating the test session because of academic dishonesty is a local decision. Please use your professional judgment. Once you invalidate the test session, you cannot go back and open the test again. Okay? If you do need to invalidate it, you would need to send the issues to the College Board if the content has been compromised and the email address is there. And you would need to flag the message as urgent and include test violation in the subject line. Do not send any screenshots of the test items or messages, and instead send the following information. And it has there the criteria that you need to send. Testing accommodations. Online tools and options. So we do have, depending on the accommodation, untimed and extended time. Wizard functionality allows students to adjust the font size, font type, background, foreground color. Screen readers that are compatible with AccuPlacer are NVDA, Zoom Text, Kurzweil 3000 for Windows, JAWS, and other screen reader programs such as Read, Write, Gold may also be compatible with the AccuPlacer platform. Companion online paper processing system. These materials are available for print on demand. So we have test booklets, standard or large print, reader scripts, answer documents, bulk print multiple answer documents. Materials available via the AccuPlacer order form. You can order Braille booklets, audio CDs, companion WritePlacer, and WritePlacer ESL. And what's new is the student can receive a printed ISR, individual score report. The student scores are included in your school's data. And the accommodation guidelines are provided by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. And we can get you a copy of this if you need it, the 60 by 30. Okay, so we're gonna go over some retest scenarios. There's many retest scenarios. The main thing to remember is that a student must qualify to retest on the essay. If the essay is given to a student, but the student did not qualify to take the essay, then the scores will be invalidated and will not be put into Banner. And if this happens frequently at a test site, it can also be closed down. So there's many different scenarios that they could qualify to retest on the essay. Okay, so we're going to go over some retest scenarios for the ELAR multiple choice. Can we see the next slide, Mr. Gomez? Thank you. Okay, so here again, the most important thing to remember here is that the student needs to qualify to separate the essay and the multiple choice section. There's many different ways that they can, but if they do not qualify, then we cannot accept their scores. Okay.
That's why we have the branching profiles, and we insist that the proctors, whenever they proctor at the high schools, make sure to follow up on what the branching profiles are telling them. On some high schools, they on occasion administer the CRC test individually, and then they administer the essay, and it shouldn't be like that. The first time the exam has to be administered completely, so you can make sure that you're actually following the appropriate guidelines as to how to administer the test. Because if the student, for example, takes the CRC test, but they don't qualify to take the essay because the score was too low, then and you administer the essay, you are breaking the rules at that point in time, and you are invalidating the test. And we have some examples of that. That's mainly the main problem we find whenever they test at the high school. But as long as you do the first test for the student based on that, and then according to what the branching profile recommends for the student to do after that, then you'll be okay. Now, as far as the learning resources, when the student takes a test, and if the student for some reason they don't pass the test or they score below the test, they're gonna get a learning locator code. That's what I was talking about a minute ago. And basically, you're gonna ask yourself, well, what is it for? Basically, it's a no-cost option that the state is providing to the students. And basically, what they do is have a site where you'll be able to access information that align to state academic standards. The topics there will be allowed the student to look up the information for the topics that they fail during the examination and be able to review it. And in case they decide to retest again, they'll be able technically or theoretically to pass the section because they already reviewed a particular section. Okay, you as an educator can go into the site and review the information. Anyone can access it since it's open as long as you have the Learning Locator code. But as an educator, you can go in and have access to more resources than that. Okay, and how do they use this? You can use it, for example, in some bridge programs, on TSA preparation classes, or a class prior to testing so you can practice, or as a prerequisite before you actually take the examination. You know, one of the advantages of this is that you can use score rosters to see who will need this help. You can also get a diagnostic roster. If you're a proctor reporter, you'll be able to pull out reports only with the diagnostic results. And also you can get a placement roster for those K-12 students. Now, for educators, it's a little bit different, and this is what you can use either at the college level or you can use it at the high school level if you prefer. Okay, if you create an account, you need to go to this website. And once you create the account, you have to input a passphrase, which is TSA2 edu. That passphrase would allow you to create your account with your login ID and password, but it will allow you to create an account as an instructor. The benefit of you creating an account as an instructor is that will allow you to access the creator section of the website. From here, you're able to click on mathematics learning resources, or you can click on the ELR learning resources. And what are those? Basically, you can go use teaching resources, and you can use the learning resources from the system. You can do assignments, and you can even share those assignment sheets with your students so they can actually, you can send them by email. They'll be able to review those assignments and score and get a score, and then you get and review those out later on. And how do you do that? Well, basically, before you learn to use it, you can review the material. For example, what is a learning locator code? You can go here to this section, and on the learning locator code, you can click on the view section, and it will allow you to see the description of every locator code that you're going to have on the system. So you know exactly what the learning locator code is actually telling the students. If you want to learn how to create the guides for your students or the topics that they need to study, you will go to Prospective Online Guide. And after you click on the view, you'll be able to manage those assignments and view how to create the assignments and the groups that you need to create in order for you to use those out. Now, the topics look like something like this. You know, once you're going to be creating your topics, you select your topics. You can use description or keyword to locate the topics. You mark the topics that you want. Okay. Then once you mark them, you decide mark them an email to your students by inputting the email that they need to review. And then once they do that, the student will get an email similar to what you see on the screen for them to review that out. And then once that is reviewed, you get the response of whatever they got on the test. Now, you can save those out, those reviews or those assignments that you create. You can upload your own content, or you can use the content that is already there, and you can share it with other instructors so they can use it with their own with their students also. That's up to you if you want to use those out. Now, there are some assignments that you can actually use. All of these, the ones on the website, have their answer. So you can have them do the assignment and then at the end show the answer if you want to do that. And that's also very useful to do. And the way you do it is that you do the search, but you make sure to click where it says answer key so you can get those that have the answer already included. And when you do that, you'll be able to view the information. The one on top will show you the, for example, where it says magic square for polynomials, will show you the process without the answer, but the one on the bottom will show you the one with the answer. So you will select that one. And after the student actually gets to answer the test, for example, or the question, they will get the answer to see if they actually did it correctly. Okay, the student will, on the score report, when they finish the test, on a section of the test, they will get this screen that you see on with this text. Basically, it's telling them, okay, this is your content for the test. You need to go to this website, and the ELR code for for your exam to review those topics is the one that you see on the bottom. In this case, the ELR code for this student was ELR 4922. Let me remind you that the ELR has over 8,000 codes to actually make sure that you get all of the different topics. And in compared to the mathematics that has about 80 only. So there's a big difference between the two. Mathematics only has about 80 ELR codes, and I'm sorry, 80 locator codes, and the ELR has about 8,000. So you can see there's a big difference. There's more combinations of topics on the ELR. That's basically the overview that we were talking about for TSIA 2. If you do have any questions right now, we'll be glad to answer those. Well, since there's no questions, we're going to proceed with the examination.
We do have a question in the chat. Norma Dominguez asked, can our teachers get access to Accuplacer so they can help students prepare for the TSI?
To Accuplacer in the sense of the website itself, yes, it's free for everyone. The TSIA2 Pearson Perspective.com, that one is open to everyone. Any other question?
Yes, Jennifer Vega asks, is there a practice test that we can access so we know how this new test looks?
As an instructor, you are allowed to come over to our testing center and request an evaluation of the test. And what we can do is actually give you a test that the student is going to be taking. You'll be able to experience the process and you'll be able to experience the examination. But let me warn you that the testing is evaluated on, I forgot that word. It's not linear. It's, Christy, help me here. It's based, God,
I'm looking for the word you're looking
it's not a linear test. Your answers for the next questions are based on the current question that you get. So for example, if you answer adaptive, thank you, adaptive. That's the word I was looking for. It's adaptive. No test is going to be the same. So whatever test you get is not going to be the same as your student, unless you purposely answer the questions wrong. And actually the same questions as your student, they probably you will get it right. But there's no way to know which question will be wrong or correct. But since it's adaptive, you have many different versions of the test going on at the same time on the room. But you're welcome to come over to the center and you'll be able to take an experience examination. We'll allow you to take it for evaluation purposes.
Norma asks, where are these adaptive practice tests?
Oh, you have to come over to the testing center. The test itself, the 20 questions are adaptive, which basically means on the first question they get, if you answer it correctly, you get a harder question. If you answer it correctly again, it will be harder and harder until you can no longer answer it correctly. If you answer a question incorrectly, then you will go one level down. If you answer correctly again, you go up again until you actually find your middle area, so you will be evaluated correctly.
And we do ask that if you are going to come by one of our testing centers, you let us know that you're there to do a practice test. Otherwise, the staff may try to charge you. So just
Yes.
let us know. Let us know in advance.
And so you're an instructor.
Yes, if you come to Valverde, definitely ask for myself. If not, if you're going to go to another campus, we can let my colleagues know that you're an instructor and you're there to do one of the demo sites.
Yeah, Hector comments in the chat, it's an eye-opener for sure, taking the practice test.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions for Christina and Armando?
Well, I guess that's it. And thank you very much for your attendance, everyone. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Christina?
No, that's it. Thank you very much for inviting us.
All right, hang on just a second and we'll go ahead and put the session evaluation in the chat box shortly for you to fill out. As we're waiting on that, a few reminders. Our pre-conference workshops are continuing throughout the week, and our conference on Saturday morning begins at 8:45 with the keynote address at 11 a.m. You will have the opportunity to win a door prize, and the chances of winning increase as you attend more workshop sessions this week. Thank you guys again for participating, and we hope to see you tomorrow evening and throughout the rest of the week.
Thank you, everyone.